Welcome to BCS, the Chartered Institute for IT. I'm Brian Runciman. We're talking today about the future of women in IT, a much discussed subject, but on the basis of some research that's just come out today from BCS, one that very much still needs to be discussed. Today's research indicated that 79% of respondents think that the IT industry will benefit from having more women in it, and yet of course the numbers of women in the IT industry are low, between 15 and 18%. In fact, possibly even lower than that. eSkills and BCS have some more research coming out shortly, which shows that in terms of female IT specialists, it's about 11% in the industry, although self-employment amongst females in the IT industry has doubled in the last 10 years. So there's a little bit of a change there. To discuss these and other issues, we have with us Gillian Arnold, the Director of Tetra, who's the Chair of the BCS Women's Group. Welcome, Gillian.
Hi.
We have with us Sue Sumner, Director of Global Finance, Technology and Solutions at Barclays. Welcome, Sue. And we have Rebecca George, who's a partner at Deloitte, a BCS trustee and the Chair of the Policy and Public Affairs Board at BCS.
Hi.
Welcome. So after those long introductions are done, let's ask the first question. Just to set this up really, what do you consider the long-term implications to be for the UK if we don't get more women into the IT industry? Perhaps we can start with you on that, Gillian.
I know that there's a significant amount of research which suggests that where companies have more females at the top of the organisation, then they're more profitable. Their share prices rise, and they've got more earnings before interest and tax. To me, that suggests that the UK would be a better place if we can get diversity at the top levels of our organisations, and that could be IT organisations or indeed any companies.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the other factor to bring into it is that there is a scarcity in technology resources, and females make up 50% of the population. So there's a massive talent pool that we could draw on. If we're at the moment suffering from a lack of technology resources, then by tapping in to that talent pool, we can meet the demand that we're going to need in the future. I think that's really important.
Good. You were saying earlier, before we started our debate, that there's some changes in Norway that had a positive effect in that. Can you just listen a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Norway mandated probably 5 years ago that boards of listed companies should have 40% diversity. So a company should have at least 40% females at board level, or indeed, if it's an all-female company, then or all-female board, 40% males. And I think it was really scary for Norway to attempt that, but they've been really successful, and we've seen other countries across Europe mandate similar kind of quotas for board diversity. But Norway has seen a benefit in terms of better management of risk and better governance at the top level because of what they've done. Which, if the research is saying that, we should be taking that.
Absolutely. What are the benefits of a diverse IT profession, Rebecca?
So I think that diversity is important in all professions, but in IT it's particularly important because we've got a diverse customer set. We're dealing with incredibly complicated issues in the work environment, and when we're looking at IT-enabled change, we're looking at developing very complicated solutions. We need massive diversity to bring to those problems, to develop interesting, innovative, new ways of doing business, to cope with the complex environment that we're in. So I think we need lots of women. I think we need lots of diversity in general, and increasingly, certainly in the business world I'm in, my customers are looking for diverse teams.
Is that the same experience for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, women bring different experiences, women bring different perspectives on things. I mean, we've just been working on a really innovative product, and some of our young tech apprentices that are women have brought a different viewpoint to that product development, and we've made some really, really interesting and exciting new products off the back of some of their input, and it's really, really been really good for us. And I think companies will get competitive advantage, as Rebecca said. Women are 50% of our consumer base, so if we're building products that are designed by women for women, bringing that element of diversity into the technology debate, then we're going to, improve our profitability. Companies will be much more successful, and I think that can only benefit both the companies, the women, and the individuals involved in bringing that technology to the organisation and to the society in general.
Well, that's an interesting point. Bearing in mind that we just said at the outset, the current research seems to indicate that self-employment in IT amongst women is going up. So perhaps that's the more entrepreneurial type, but the employment of IT women in the enterprise is going down. Is there, in fact, a problem in the more formalised environments? I mean, this is an environment you're in, of course, Sue, but...
I think, technology's got an image problem for women. I think, generally women think of it as boring and nerdy, or used to. I mean, that was my perception as a child. I didn't start out in technology. I started out in customer services, and I migrated to technology because I saw the opportunities to do something different, more exciting.
Yeah.
And I think we need to change the perception that it is boring and nerdy, and that it can be something that is exciting and inspiring to all gender types and all walks of life.
I think there are a couple of issues here. One is that we're working with a new generation of employees who want different styles of working and different relationships with their employers. And, young people coming through the profession don't necessarily think of getting a job for life. They're thinking about what's going to be interesting on my CV, what's going to be a good relationship for me to have, a good experience for me to develop over the next year or two, and then I'll move on to something else. The concept of employment or being self-employed is changing a lot, and our, if you like, psychological contract with the people that work with us is also changing. So I think IT hasn't had a great reputation for being flexible in the way that it interacts with the people who work in the profession, men or women.
Yes.
And I feel very strongly that if we make IT a profession which is good for everyone, it's going to bring along women as well.
Yes.
And part of that is by allowing people to work the hours that they want to work, where they want to work, and for long or for short periods.
Well, that's interesting because the East Coast research, another little bit I'll quote to you, 18% of females working as IT specialists are part-time, but that figure apparently is well below a lot of other professions. So it seems to be a particular problem in the IT area.
There's a sense that there's quite a lot of presenteeism in IT. Maybe that's across other industries as well, but in my experience this is what I've seen. And so where an industry in general feels that it's important to be there, then flexible working can put you at the bottom of the pile when it comes to career opportunities or progressing to the higher echelons. It's really sad that we're in that state. We need to fix it. We need to fix it. And perhaps it's around showing everyone, not just the women, that flexible working's a great way of running your life.
Absolutely. Is it patronising to say that women bring something different to the IT profession?
I don't think it's patronising. I think there are a couple of there's a kind of positive point of view and there's a negative as well. On the positive side, there are things that women are very good at, and you can speak generically, and there's always exceptions to the rule, but women tend to be good communicators, tend to be good collaborators, tend to be good at problem solving. They also tend to be very, very good at computer programming and the technical side of computing.
Okay.
So I think that needs to be encouraged and promoted and celebrated. On the other side, women tend to act differently than men in the workplace. Typically, we're not as confident in interviews, and we don't sound as confident as interviews. We don't tend to take on board constructive criticism very well. We tend to worry about it, perhaps more than our male counterpoints would. And we're not brilliant at selling ourselves in the workplace, tending to think that if we put our heads down, we'll get promoted and rewarded. And there's a 22% pay gap in the IT profession at the moment. And part of that, not all of it, but part of it is our fault, because we're not very good at negotiating pay rises in the way that our male counterparts are. So I think there's two parts of this. I think
Yes.
there's definitely a role for organisations to help and promote women, but there's also a role for organisations to understand how to manage women who are different in the way that they present themselves in the work environment.
Yes. Another little part of the research we found quite interesting, just going back to GCSE level in computing, was that the higher grades, A star in GCSE, 31% of females get those grades and only 23% of males, which seems to indicate to me there's not just the soft skills that sometimes are quickly leapt to as being the advantage, but rather there's actually a huge untapped resource of bright women who are not being
We've got to be really careful in the industry, because if we only go after the white male under 45 demographic to source the people that we put in our companies, then, you know, that number's dwindling, and actually there's this incredible talent pool that we're missing out on.
Yes.
So we really should go after all of those women.
And what about returners to work? There seems to be a particular barrier there as well. Any thoughts on that? Sue?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should encourage more schemes to help bring the mums back to work. There's lots of opportunities that we're not tapping into, and companies and organisations need to think about what schemes they need to put in place to support women, and not just women, you know, all genders really around the workplace.
Yes.
It does worry me though that we kind of often say, oh yeah, it's because women went off to have babies that they didn't make it through the glass ceiling, or they didn't get the salary, or they didn't get the promotions. And actually, you know, the UK is not doing very well on its replenishment rate in terms of births. So if that's true, then there's not all these women who've had babies who got stopped. There's an awful lot of women out there who didn't have babies and still didn't get through the glass ceiling.
So one of the things I worry about is that women just don't like IT. They work in it for a bit and they do fine and they get on well, but they don't like it. Why don't they like it? Well, because they don't find very many other people who look, feel or act like they do. They maybe don't like the hours, they maybe don't like the pressures of work, but perhaps they just don't like the fact that it's a bit of a boys' club. And so they vote with their feet and say, well, I think I'll go and work somewhere else. I'll go and work somewhere where I can be more in control. Perhaps I'm self-employed, maybe there's more women around.
Or more recognised.
Or more recognition, exactly.
Yes.
And so, yeah, absolutely, women just vote with their feet and they go and start their own businesses, which may be in something completely different to IT, which is really sad, because that's all those fabulous skills that we've just lost.
Yes.
And the cost for employers of putting all that skill into an individual, and this person walks out.
But that's why I think we need the men really actively engaged in this. I mean, I think if we want to attract women into the workplace and keep them there, then we need men to be completely and utterly up for it, working for it every day, looking for bright women, looking for bright people to bring through their organisations. I'm not in favour of positive discrimination, but I do think we don't actually get an equal look in quite a lot of the time.
Well, I think the research that BCS has done and eSkills recently backs that up quite strongly. So we've laid the groundwork there. We know the problems. We've touched once or twice on some of the possible solutions. So I wanted to come on to that. What do organisations like BCS, the media, big business need to actually do to start to address this? Now, the suggestions we had through the research, one of the ones that come very high up was more encouragement at school to get people to study computing related subjects. Now, is that the right place to start? Should we be doing all that?
Yeah, I think the sooner you can start, the better. I saw a young girl on Saturday morning, and she was with her mum, and she was preschool, and she was using iPad or something, and she kept saying, "Mum, what does it say on here? Can I buy one of these things?" This is the ubiquity of IT. So if we can get to people that young and keep with it and say to them, look, this is a fabulous career. then yeah, absolutely. And in fact, way back in March, we ran an event to tell the teachers and careers people at schools about how fantastic a career in IT could be for a girl.
So was that a local school or?
Oh no, that was part of the BCS Women,
Okay.
just doing an event for teachers.
Yeah.
So BCS has supported for some time a project called Girls in IT,
Yes.
which is around getting volunteers to go into schools
Mm.
to talk to girls about coming into the IT profession. And we've also supported the e-skills computer clubs for girls for some years.
Yes.
So there are initiatives going on
Yes.
in schools. Part of the concern I have about that is that they tend to be quite fragmented, so and sometimes quite short term.
Mm.
So I'm very in favour of having collaborative initiatives which involve lots of organisations and are sustained over a long period of time, and that means that they're properly supported and funded,
Okay.
and that is always a problem.
Well, that's a practical starting point. That would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think another little a bit of research from the forthcoming Women in IT scorecard for 2014, which rather surprised me, which is in the 2013, there was the lowest number of females doing ICT at GCSE levels for 10 years. That's in terms of percentage of the school population. By number, it was the second worst year in the last 10
Let's
years.
hope
That surprises me.
There's going to be a change in the curriculum which is going to be starting in
Yes.
September, and let's hope that there's a lot more in there which is of interest to girls. I think